tuning in to the online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
If you get in trouble.
Hello and welcome, AfterBuzz TV fans.
I am here.
Bar Rescue, Season 4, Episode 22, entitled Emergency Exit. I'm your host, Kevin Undergaro, and as you can see, this is one very, very lonely Bar Rescue after show.
Don't you let him.
And as you can tell, it's July 5th or 6th, I don't even know, but you know we're in that 4th of July kind of hangover. God, when I was a kid, this was not a time for TV viewing. Fortunately, with cable and everything else, we still have some summer TV has more than a pulse. But I'm the only one here fighting the fight. In the booth, though, thank God, I'm going to have Phil Svitek.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Phil, we'll be leaning on you from time to time. This one was this was an interesting episode of Bar Rescue. Not my favorite. I'm still just a little bit. I don't know. I'm I'm a little bit speechless. With the guy, well, let's start from the top. It was Murphy's Law, which for you diehard fans like me, you know that. It's really, Phil? With Murphy's Law, we had a bar in the past called Murphy's Law. It was the one that had foundation issues, and John had to come in and actually replace the whole foundation before we could fix the bar. And the bar has since gone out of business, but it was a beautiful remodel. That bar was named Murphy's Law because everything that could go wrong did go wrong with the bar, and as John explains in this episode when he does a brief recap. But this Murphy's Law is named Murphy's Law from the get-go. And curious enough, has the Italian flag colors, not the Irish flag. Irish has orange in it. The Italian flag has red. It's very interesting. And what I thought was great about the episode, and also very tragic, was the fact that Gary, the lead owner, was suffering from BMS. It's just another great Taffer turn. Broken Man Syndrome. And my goodness, I've probably in my past, I'm sure, experienced broken man syndrome, and I'm sure a lot of you other guys have experienced it as well. But it's a perfect term for when you are broken by life. And I don't know if John meant to say broken by a woman, but it seems like it applies mostly to that. And I think of when I was most broken, it was always over some kind of relationship. And Gary certainly is suffering from this. Gary is a pilot, and the bar's in Reno, Nevada, so we've got the smoking, which always annoys me, but we've got, probably some gaming, but it seems like for whatever reason, Bar Rescue kind of keeps that out. You see the little gaming machines on the bar. Gary's losing $2,000 a month and is now just writing personal checks to keep the place going. What makes it interesting, going back to Broken Man Syndrome, is the woman who broke Gary is also an owner in the bar. She owns a 40% stake. Making things more interesting is the fact that she put up no money to get that stake. They were dating, I think it was 5 years ago. He gave her the 40%. They broke up. And then basically, he pays her $1,000 a week salary and still lets her have the 40% just so he could sit next to her at the bar. And because he's so brokenhearted, he'll never be with her again or see her again if she doesn't have this ownership, which she's not earned, she's not invested in. And when she's at the bar, she just sits there and smokes, drinks, and gambles all night long. Doesn't lift a finger. So to watch this was infuriating. And then the last wrinkle is that Nellie, the bartender, who in one of the Podbusters, and if you don't know TV, the Podbuster is something, it's a piece from the series that they'll put in during the commercials. So one of those pieces, I don't know if you noticed, if you didn't have your DVR on, if you watched all the commercials like I did, he was using alcohol as a hair tonic or like a hair gel to put in his hair. Anyway, Nellie's mom gave him $25,000 to invest in this bar. He did so, and he works there. And this is this kind of losing triangle. And for Recon, we have Chef Nick, who I love, and we have John. And I'm sorry, there was an Irish bar expert, and which was kind of weird to me because it was an Irish bar, but looked nothing like an Irish bar. Nothing. The flag was wrong, and then when you went inside, John pointed out that most Irish bars have an intimate setting. And whether in LA we have Sonny McLean's and several other places, or in Boston we had Irish bars, felt like on every corner, but they do have that intimate wood grain cottage home type feeling, and this one did not. It was wide open, and it was very generic. And so I don't understand. Well, anyway, it was just weird that they had a bartender, a bar expert who had an Irish background. It was maybe it's just a coincidence, but I thought that was going to come into play. There's no kitchen. He's basically boiling hot dogs on a small burner and a frying pan that any one of us would have in our house. That's the kitchen. So we've got a big mess here, but it was a tough one to watch because I just felt it was doomed from the start because Gary was so broken. And so from the beginning, John does the right thing and immediately susses out that this woman is taking 40% share and $1,000 a week. So her $1,000 a week just to sit on that bar stool, you lose that, and now the guy's making a $2,000 profit. If he's losing $2,000 a month just by getting this lady out of the bar, he's going to get $2,000 a month in profit. Maybe not enough to sustain himself or the business, but sustain himself, but certainly will keep the business afloat. So John accurately susses out, well, this is the problem. But, you guys know when it comes to a broken heart, all bets are off. I'm out the door. Anytime you have somebody who's wrapped up with a guy or a girl, they're going to do they're going to do what they want in their heart. And if that's to be with that person, they're going to be with them at some point in time. And if they're not with them, then they're only going to be further brokenhearted. And this is just one that I feel like in 4 days couldn't be fixed. It may never be able to be fixed, but this takes months. It takes months to get off somebody. There's obviously an unhealthy addiction that he has for her. She's clearly an addict from her behavior. It seems like, I don't know this person personally. I'm just basing it off what I saw on the show. And John, first thing is like, she's got to go, which of course was the right thing to do. And he says how hard it's going to be, and he asked John to do the dirty work for him, which again is fine. It's okay. And I think if I were John, I would have done the same thing. At least we believe we're making some progress. But I just feel like some of these owners, they've seen too many of these episodes. They understand if I behave long enough, I'll get what I want, and then I could just go back to doing what I want to do. Whether it's the Wonder Bar or some of these other places. And it's really frustrating. And that's more pressure now, I think, on Bar Rescue, the producers, to cast us with those crazies who can't hold it together. who can't even hold it together long enough to get what they want, and then give John the finger later. But I felt like this guy was such a jellyfish that he was like, okay, yes, John, okay, you say I'll let her go, and give me everything. And I just knew, when I felt like in the back of my head, it was just a matter of time that this person, Maria was going to come back in his life and in this bar at some point in time, no matter what the black screen said afterwards. But man, I don't know. It was Phil is, like I said, not my favorite episode, but not my least favorite either, because it's a common problem. With what was it on South Park, Phil? What were they called? Succubus?
Oh yeah, succubus is all that type of stuff. Yeah, I mean, there doesn't seem to be many reviews in terms of, I don't know how far you want to get ahead, but yeah, Maria's definitely back in the picture. She's all over the Facebook page.
Oh yeah, no, I know that film. We'll get into that, but getting into just even from your age group, you're younger, but how many times do we see the succubus? Hey, by the way, let's explain, really, Phil, because you're a bigger South Park fan. I'm a huge South Park fan, but you have better recall than I do. What defines succubus for us, Phil?
I mean, obviously, the term "suck" is in there, so they, you can say they suck the soul out of you, the life out of you, the money out of you, however you kind of want to term it. And she's doing all those various things, to Gary in this sense. And a lot of people are saying she has no class and everything like that, and that's. Part of it is the harder term to define. Is it intentional or is it not intentional? And oftentimes, what's unfortunate is that these women are intentional in their.
Yeah, and she basically said when confronted, like, "Hey, that's his problem." Wait, so he pays you $1,000 a week. You sit there. You have free ownership in this bar. You sit there, smoke and gamble all his money away. And her response is, well, that's his problem. That's what he wants to do. Just that arrogant, yuck. And it's sad. I see it a lot. And by the way, it's not just with women. I see it with guys, too. I see how many guy partners I know hold women back. It's terrible. Very frustrating episode to watch because of that. John rightfully gets her out of there, but it takes, it was a little longer of... It felt like of a recon just to have to deal with that. They did do a stress test, and Nellie also wasn't... well, God, let's back up to the recon. So then Nellie gets in a blowout with Gary and walks out, but we're not really clear why. She's like, you're an effing jerk, F you, I'm sick of you, and, maybe because they weren't helping him, maybe they weren't bar backing for him, but according to this, from what we're hearing, they've never helped him. So it was just really strange. I mean, he's at his wit's end because he wants his mother's money back. Maybe he knew national cameras were there, national television was watching him, so he was going to make his big grandstand for his mother's money. I don't know. But they almost come to blows. John has to get out of the car and break them up.
He did in terms of Nellie, I thought he had his words very carefully chosen. It was rehearsed. It almost sounded like a courtroom thing of whatever,
Right,
and
yeah.
so it felt a little staged on his part.
Well, he did say, I'm going to get a lawyer, so you're right, Phil. Maybe he thought about what he was going to say. But one of the more awkward bartenders we've seen. I mean, physically speaking, Phil, just watching his hands, trying to pour and this and that. When in the recon, he was putting his hands in people's drinks to actually mix the drinks. Just gross. But then when he goes through his training or retraining, very awkward, very shaky. Yeah, I don't know if this guy, he could have been a drunk himself too, or he just didn't have the coordination to be a bartender. I don't know, but you really, this place was built on sand for a foundation. That's, I mean, I kept looking for who's here to step up. The guy in the kitchen was decent. He didn't have many tools to work with, and what was interesting, and I give credit to Bar Rescue because I love when they get away from the formula. Phil, they did a kitchen renovation before anything. They did it after the stress test, and John, being John, said, "I've got I've got to breathe some life. That's why John is so good. John was figuring I've got to breathe some life into this jellyfish Gary. So how do I do that? Well, I want to get him interacting with the customers. So John passes out 5 business cards to random customers, and John says, I want you to meet everyone in this place, and if you get those 5 cards, if you collect those 5 cards, I'm going to give you a new kitchen. And the guy interacts, and he's shaking hands with people. I think it was a way to try to get him back into the business, but also make him more extroverted and maybe build his confidence. So he gets the cards, and John redoes the kitchen before the actual renovation, which I thought was cool and different. And he puts in a fryer later and a fridge, and just he makes it into an actual real kitchen, which again just is why this show is just again, you just win when you work with Bar Rescue. You know, I never understand the criticism, but needless to say, the chef that they have, he didn't look like a chef. He didn't even look like a cook, but he ended up being okay. He got him there. Chef Nick, who's amazing, gets him there. But I guess we move into, at that point, John being John, and we talked about this last week, how John has this way of assessing the strengths and weaknesses of people, and actually, even more than that, assessing kind of what makes you tick inside, and then using that as a tool to coach you. So if you're a baseball player, he's like we saw last week, it was all about averages and statistics and batting average. Well, he knew Gary was a pilot. So he knew that a pilot, beyond the fact, is in charge of the lives of 200 plus people and takes this big machine into the sky. I mean, it's there's a lot of gravitas to the position of pilot, and I think John was trying to remind him of that through the episode. Like, you don't have to be this broken man with this person next to you who's doing nothing for you. You're better than this. But then in terms of management, he ended up giving him checklists, because any pilot is going to have your checklist before you take off, I'm sure when you land, and even probably even after you tow into your station. And we've never seen that before. John gives him a manila folder with all these pieces of paper stapled and various checklists on opening the bar, closing the bar, other procedures, probably opening, closing the kitchen. And the guy was so excited. But again, that's John. Like, that's why John's such an amazing coach and leader and manager. And he never talks about that. It's interesting. It's something that comes to him naturally, because when I've interviewed him, I've asked him if he's always trying to find that inside thing in a person to see what makes them tick and then use it. And no, he's like, just in the moment, it just comes to him what to do. So I thought that was very effective.
Well, I mean, in terms of that, John does in his book, he talks about there's 4 motivations of a person. It could be money, it could be prestige, so on and so forth. You can buy the book to really kind of get into it, raise the bar. But I think once he identifies what that initial motive is, then you figure out, okay, what are the specifics to drive that motive within this person.
It's interesting because Tony Robbins also has something like that. It's what are you driven by? Certain people are driven by money. Some are driven by fame. Some are driven by recognition. Some are just driven by thanks and praise. But anyway, that's it. Just, again, leave it to John. And I'm sure he applies that when he gets these guys. Well, we do the renovation. And, obviously the kitchen was done, as we said. The name is changed to Money Bar. Logo was kind of cool. As far as I like the font for the Money Bar, but it seemed like they were kind of into it. But then when you got inside, it looked great. It was another great renovation. They had a really cool feature. John created this almost like a secret hatch that opens up, and there's this special cocktail in there that people can drink. It was fun. It livened the place up a lot. he put them all in uniform, like not tuxedos, but the type of outfits you'd see for people running casinos. So it brought a lot to the place, and like I said, everything was fine. It just the feeling I got when it ended was, this isn't going to work. And I just feel like the Gary, who, as John said, was a bit of a jellyfish, was just yes, going along kind of to get what he wanted, and also going along because it seems like that's his personality. There's not a lot of fight left in the dog, because he is broken man syndrome. And then when I went to Bar Rescue Updates, which I guess, Phil, probably should do. I should probably do the live read before I get into the updates part, because I'm rambling all over the place.
Sure.
I was like, yeah. Well, you know what? Can you really blame me? I don't have anyone here to help me. Well, I'd like to take this time to thank our sponsor, which is Mazda. And Mazda has a very important question for you. Does driving matter to you? There's over 4 million miles on the road in the U.S. alone. That's a lot of ground to cover. A lot of highways, freeways, wrong ways, long ways. They're all there, waiting to be driven on. So do you take that left turn at Albuquerque, or just keep going? Do you wake up early Sunday morning for a drive before the traffic does? Or do you take the long, winding road home for a change? If driving matters to you, just get out and drive. Why? Because driving matters. Mazda. Actually, Phil, you know something? Maria, my girlfriend Maria Menounos, driving so matters. She's the one always taking the long road, always loves driving early, driving late, just loves driving. Me and you, Phil, we like to watch movies and TV, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
But we'd like to drive to the movie theater.
There you go. We're driving to the movie theater, yeah. And by the way, Mazda's a great product too. God, they've come a long, long way. Anyhow, let's talk about the update for where this bar is at now. So I looked at Bar Rescue Updates, which is a great site, you guys, barrescueupdates.com. And I went to, what I found was, it seems like they went from the Money Bar back to Murphy's Law. They put up the old sign. And as Phil said at the top, Maria's back working at the bar and all part of it. And but not much activity, Phil, on either of the Facebook pages. There's a Murphy's Law Facebook page, which is current. There's a past one for Money Bar. They're both relatively dead. It didn't seem like there was a lot of connectivity in the bar, Phil. It didn't seem to me like this was a bar that people were cared about, were loyal to. We've seen other bars that were down and out, but they still have their diehard regulars. And it didn't even feel like that this place had that.
Yeah, no, it didn't.
I wish Roxy or Dorinda were with me, or Ashley or somebody. It's because
they're all in Boston.
I know, they're all on their 4th of July, but this one was very frustrating, very upsetting to watch. Probably because it just hit home too much. I've just seen too many of the succubuses come in and destroy and not care. And not caring, like you said, Phil, even willfully, even know what they're doing, which is worse. And I don't know. I'm just glad it's over. I know there's so many amazing episodes coming that I can't give away, but that I know, knowing people on the show, that they told me about. So I'm so excited. But this one, I don't know, Phil. I can't wait. I know, Phil, you're only halfway through it. Next week we'll talk about it. I'd love to get your thoughts, because it might be me. It might just be me, because I was just so turned off by her, and she went away too easy, and he was too easy about doing it, and that's why I was like, no, this isn't good.
No, I get it. Here's the thing. Some of these episodes that I've seen, while I enjoy them, there is a kind of depressing factor to them at times. If you really, feel for the people. In this one, it didn't have a happy ending, and
right.
You for Bar Rescue, yes, no matter what the episode, there's an education factor that you're going to take away 100%. But you I don't know. For me, I in terms of a reaction, right? John always talks about bar has to create reactions. So the show, for me, I want an uplifting reaction at the end of it, like all is well and good. Like look at the four San Francisco sisters. That was a great story.
Yes.
And it really leaves you not only like, wow, I learned something, but I'm glad that they did this for these girls, so on and so forth. With this, you're left not in a good place, and that's obviously not John's fault. That's not Bar Rescue's fault. That's just unfortunately that's who Maria is.
It's also casting, Phil. But I guess on paper it looked like we had the succubus and whatever, but it just didn't go as planned. I think that's why in half of the show. Well, I wouldn't say half the show. A third of this show is casting. The rest is John. But I think that they just had a mishap here with this one. I personally think, and I'm with you, I like the one. By the way, I don't always need a happy ending. I love my pirates. 27 minutes in, I love my cockroach bar. I love some of the bad guys. I love the Wonder Bar. I hate the Wonder Bar, but I love the Wonder Bar. You know what I mean, Phil? This one I didn't hate or love. I hated her, but yeah. I
mean, it's, if nothing else, it's a good cautionary tale for male or female, doesn't matter, if you're a bar owner, to watch out for this, because I've just seen so many people get taken
already at a young age. Phil, I've been in your face since you were 19 about this, haven't I? Because you know what? My dad was in my face about it too. Always. Because he'd be like, see this guy? See this girl? See this girl? My whole life, that's all he did is he'd warn me. He'd show us family friends, even family members of going down this road. But I've been doing the same with you since you were a kid.
This is an interesting and kind of half random, but some of you guys might actually like this. There's Huck Finn, right? The Tom Sawyer, the Mark Twain story. At the end of it, after him and Jim's kind of story, the widow Douglas tries to adopt him and civilize him again. And at the end of it, he's just like, you know what? I've been there before, and he throws off all of that stuff and goes off on another adventure. And that's kind of, I feel like as much as maybe I would have wanted that life, it's just I've been there before, and it's not for me.
No. But I don't think it's for anybody. It's sad, guy or girl. If you don't have a partner there that's going to uplift you and make you better, get out. I mean, God, unless you fall in love with someone and God forbid they get in an accident or they get a disease, become handicapped, well, that's your job. That's your duty to take care of that person. But this is like, but we feel all the time, right?
And this is there's been horror stories where, they don't even have to own your business. They just, your life is enough for them. The fact that she owns 40% for having done nothing, and it's just so many, the layers upon layers upon layers. It's just
it's costing $4,000 a month in salary.
Yeah.
When he's losing $2,000. By the way, John could have walked out right there. Okay, you're fired. Okay, she's not going to get rehired. Her salary's gone. Okay, bar's rescued. Yeah. Black screen, now out of debt, making $2,000 extra a month.
Yeah, and sometimes, it's one of those things that, even now, you can look at the numbers all you want, but until you throw it in somebody and really kind of explain it to them that way, it just doesn't stick. Because the solution was right there in front of him.
Yeah. And he took it, but it was just, we just knew it was, I knew it watching, it was just temporary. So, you know what, guys? Hit us up on iTunes or on the YouTube page. Let me know what you guys, I'm curious to know what you guys think. Maybe, because it might be me. It just might be me and how I saw this person, this Maria chick. And like I said, then I was further underwhelmed by Nellie. But let me know. And by the way, we should not exonerate Gary, because clearly this is what he's choosing, Phil.
Yeah.
Like at some point, we've all been there in a relationship that's unhealthy or addictive. But man, at some point, Anyway, Phil, hopefully next week, well, I'm sure next week's episode is going to be better because I just know I've never had a bad episode of Bar Rescue, so I can't imagine having two. Okay, Phil, you can hit me up at Undergaro, but hit up Roxy Stryer and ask her why she wasn't here. Hit up Dorinda Barker, ask her why she wasn't here. Hit up Tall Mia, at Tall Mia, same thing. Say, why weren't you here? Why were you guys away on the 4th of July leaving Kev all over Bar Rescue? But seriously, Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm sorry we don't have a full panel, and I'm sorry that my energy wasn't where it should be, but I might be the episode, maybe not. But as I said, I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think.
I think you're reflecting the energy of the episode. Not the energy of the episode, but the energy of Gary.
Yeah, that's it. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Anyway, guys, we'll see you next week. Thank you.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later!
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.